Hey, what's up, everybody out there? Welcome to the next edition of Bald Headed Logic. The guys and I are all getting excited for football season. We know we bringing some great content around the NFL, college football. Not exactly sure what the coach has served up for us today, but I'm always ready. Like they say, I stay ready, so I have to get ready. So, Coach Troy, tell me what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, there's been a pretty hot topic going around with one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. Former Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels is having some beef with his former college, LSU. They had, I guess, they had promised him that they would not allow people to wear his jersey or any future player to wear his jersey number. And they promised it to a young man in recruiting to get him to come to the school. They said he could wear the jersey, and they are allowing him to wear it. And from what I understand, Jaden or his people, his managers or the people that are, looking out for him are very upset about that. And I think it's crazy. I think it's super foolish. But I want to know y'all's opinion, man. What do you guys think about, Jaden Daniels is issue with his jersey number?
Was it retired? Was it officially retired?
No, sir.
No.
Nope. It was not officially retired. It was just, a wink, wink. We're not going to let nobody wear it.
Man, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm going to tell you, and really not even a hard time. Football is what we always call the ultimate team sport, right? It's about 11 guys on each side of the ball getting in there and going to war with one another to come out with a championship and a victory. For a guy to really now, even especially after he's left the university, demand that his uniform never gets worn, it gets used, man, that's the epitome of, to me, selfishness and putting himself above the team and the players. It's ridiculous now. He made money in college. None of us made a penny in college, right? He made plenty of money while he was in school. And it's only because of the platform that a school like LSU was able to give him at that time. I'm not taking away his great ability and him being a dynamic, fantastic player, which he was. But man, come on now. If that guy was to walk into my locker room in the NFL after he did that in college, I'd be on him all the time. Like, what, man? Are we going to have to retire your number here too now? You wore those shoes today. Man, nobody can ever touch those shoes again because the great Jaden Daniels has worn those shoes. I mean, this is getting crazy. I mean, absolutely nuts. In football, usually on every team, there's like 90, 100 players. So there are already duplicates being used. So when you retire a number of football, it takes away, a lot of, so every great player that ever comes through LSU now should all be demanded. No one could ever wear my jersey. We wouldn't have any jerseys left. Come on, Jaden McDaniels. And if it's his mom, I mean, how money hungry can you be? This dude is a multi-millionaire football player, made money while he's in college. You got to squeeze every dime and nickel out of the university you can by saying, now I don't want them because I want to be the only person to ever market this jersey. I mean, it's getting a little ridiculous, y'all. I'm for guys making as much money as they can, so I'm not pocket watching here, but that's just a little arrogant to me for him to feel like he should be the only person who should ever wear that number again. No one should ever get that chance. And I'm sure there was some great number 5s at LSU before he got there. What if they didn't want him to wear the number? Come on, man. Get over yourself, dog. You're a great NFL player. You're going to have a long career, but you're doing way too much, bro.
Yeah.
But Greg, let me say this, though. They say I'm being devil advocate, all right? I'm agreeing with you. But he's saying that Joe Burrow, they ain't wearing his jersey. Now, what you got to say to that?
I don't give a damn about what Joe Burrow's jersey and the situation is with that. And if Joe Burrow is asking his team not to play his jersey, I got the same comments for him. Joe Burrow, you're not the greatest quarterback in the history of all of football, and there should be no reason a team should be making that agreement with him. And then it comes down to this. Don, you and I are friends, and you and I have a long relationship. Now, if you were some sort of way able to get the University of Washington to give you something and they don't give it to me, do you think that knowing that I'm one of the best players that ever played the UW, do you think that I would go, man, you guys did that for Don, then you better do it for me? I'm going to be excited for you. I'm going to be glad that they gave you that honor, and because it has no bearing or impact on me. So I'm not sure why that even matters. It's like, oh, you did it for him. I'm gonna put somebody on blast here, and they might be mad at me. But I remember when the University of Washington retired the uniform of Isaiah Thomas. the famous basketball player that ended up playing at Boston and being an all-star, one of the great players out of the Seattle area. University of Washington retired his number. Well, that number had also been worn by Nate Robinson before him. And Nate Robinson was a little upset that they retired the number for Isaiah Thomas and didn't retire for him. And him and I had a conversation about it. And I told him, just like I'm saying to you guys, no, I'm not pulling no punch. I said, Nate, that's silly. They're only retiring the jersey for him because right now there's no excitement going on with Husky basketball. There's nothing right now that's good about the program. And because Isaiah's in the spotlight right now, he just made an all-star game. He just ended up being one of the best players in the league. The University of Washington is trying to create some excitement around basketball. So that's why they're doing it. They're retiring his jersey. You maybe in time will get yours retired or hung up in the rafters or whatever, but it's real silly for you, Nate, to be sitting up here mad because they're retiring his jersey and not yours. And Nate didn't understand, didn't feel me, and he might have felt some kind of way, but I told him the truth, just like I'm saying about these guys. I told Nate that's ridiculous. And you shouldn't be bothered that they're retiring his jersey and that number, and it ain't you. So I'm not really concerned about what somebody else is doing, Don. I hear your point, and that's all fine and dandy. But to me, I can't be basing my feelings on what happens with another man.
Yeah, I find it weird in a sense. I don't, of course, don't know the entire story, but from what I hear, it's just kind of weird. And they say his mom may be involved in a lot of it because that tends to be how it goes. I guess she represents him and isn't really involved in a lot of his goings. But when it comes down to it, man, I don't know if it is like, you hear things when you're a kid and you grow up hearing the same things when people are talking about, well, that generation, well, this new generation and the new generation, I don't know what generation he's exactly from, Gen Z or a millennial or whatever, but that might be the thing, man. It's like I find every new trend, or not every new trend, but a lot of new trends to be a bit kind of irritating, and just some of the expectations and of what people should be doing for people to kind of, I just find it a little ridiculous. What I found funny though is that I found online you just see a bunch of stuff and they say these are all the things that were banned, and I just got a couple of them. They said $5 energy drinks are banned now because of Jaden Daniels. 5 gum is banned. Five Below stores, $5 and below are banned. $5 bills are now banned.
Five Guys burgers.
Five Guys burgers are banned. They say high fives are banned. The 5-second rule is banned. 9 to 5 jobs are now banned because of Jaden Daniels. So it's a bit ridiculous, man. Just expectations. There may be something that we're not knowing. I don't really even buy. And I heard the point that you said, Don, but I don't really buy that either, man. It's just it's kind of ridiculous. So
yeah, for one thing, too, Joe Barrow, he did win the national championship and the Heisman too. I mean, so I can understand that, the school not wanting to play him, but to Greg's point, you can't retire everybody's number, or you ain't gonna have no more numbers. I mean, these teams got 140 players now. They got players wearing the same number on the same team because there's just not enough numbers to go around. Remember, we used to have we had Mario Belli and Data Hall. They all had number 5. And they're both superstars, one on offense and one on defense, because there's not enough numbers to go around. And what most teams are doing nowadays anyway, they're just putting you up in the Ring of Honor, instead of retiring jersey. I mean, and it's ridiculous. I mean, man, it's disappointing, man, because, I'm a Jaden Daniels fan, man, and I don't want him just a waste of energy, man.
And it's making him look bad.
Yeah.
Making him look bad. Right.
It's a bad look.
I'm always, getting biblical, man. Pride comes before the fall. Man, you can't be you can't be so full of yourself or and to where, you over a freaking jersey, man, because that's just not that's just not good vibes, or or just brings positive energy, around you, man. You just need to let that go and just focus on this in this football season with the Washington Commanders, man.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking, and from what I see, it's not necessarily him, and he doesn't have what his issue is, I think biggest issue is he needs to get more control over his life, right? I think that, I remember when him and Juju Watkins are trying to be a thing, or they were, friends, or, I don't know exactly
Yeah,
what's,
I remember that.
then,
They were at
but I
the
remember
basketball games,
his,
sitting together or something.
yeah, and his mom wasn't feeling that, and she got, whatever. I just feel like he needs to, step up a little bit and be more, you know, be more vocal about what's going on in his life, and not allowing, because this is really, like Chuck just, named those, all those memes and all the stuff, making him look bad and taking his focus away from what's important, and that's trying to, like you said, trying to win. So I think he needs to step up a little bit, man, and kind of, maybe. And it's hard to check your mama. I know it's your mama, but you still gotta, at some point, you got to be like, look, this ain't a good look for me. We gotta, we can't, focus on this. I'm sure if there was a miscommunication where they told him, I mean, there could have been a conversation, but he should have never, let it get public, and should have never made it a big deal. I think it's a really bad look for him. But yeah,
Man,
so, yeah, but hey, we'll see what happens with it.
is this are his parents still together?
What's that?
Anybody know? Anybody know if his
No,
mom and
I
dad is still
don't
together?
think so.
No,
I don't.
Man, I would say, man,
I
he need to
never
tell
see
his
them
dad.
together.
He need to tell his dad to go have a conversation with his mom, tell her to calm down, and if
Yeah,
she's single, then we need to send somebody
exactly.
over there to get her focus
yeah,
off all this stuff,
I think
get
her
her
mom,
preoccupied.
Hmm.
well, I can tell you this. Her mom has been, from what I've seen, because we covered Jaden Daniels and when he was in preschool. When I was doing videos with under the radar, her mom was the one that brought him to the games, the practices, and I know that, just for a fact. And I'm not saying his dad wasn't involved, but usually when football was taking him around to the games and practice, it was his mom. From what
You guys, I got some down. I don't mean to cut you off, but listen to this. Jaden Daniels' father is Javon Daniels. He's a former college football defensive back who played at Washington and Iowa State. Do you guys remember him at all?
Javon Daniels,
Yeah.
and he played at the University of Washington. Does it
Yep.
say what year?
his dad,
Yep. His dad played at Washington, played at UW. He's a
Does it
D-back.
say what year? Does it say what years his dad played at UW?
Let me look and see. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
she need a
Yeah,
boyfriend
I don't know.
or
We
something.
might have to ask
She
him.
needs somebody
We might have to get our producer on that.
Yeah. Man,
That's
any of y'all got a single
he
friend
could have,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just found that interesting that he played at Washington, Iowa State. He's a D-back, but yeah. So, but interesting, man. I mean, I feel bad for the kid because he's young and this isn't the kind of attention that he needs, especially after last season with the injury and cutting the season short, and having all those expectations that he had last year after having the big rookie year, and then kind of falling flat last year because of the injuries, and then now you have this kind of some garbage way to start your season.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, man, there has to be something else to it that we're not really hearing. There just has to be something else going on.
One thing that we didn't mention,
imagine
Chuck,
this is that, huh?
But one thing we didn't mention was that the reason why this is a controversy because the top recruit from LSU wanted to wear number 5, and Lane Kiffin promised him that number coming in, as part of his recruitment. So that's why the issue came back alive. So that's something that I don't think was mentioned that we probably should note.
All that being said, I heard that it was a former coach that promised it to Jaden Daniels that's no longer there, and then the current coach that promised it to the new recruit, wasn't necessarily a part of that staff. But to me, none of that matters. I mean, why do you think, just put yourself in that position, why do you think no one at that school should ever wear my number again? What is the purpose and the intent? If it's marketing and you want to capitalize on the NIL deal, you would have to prove that you made the number 5 what it is and famous. And if there are other players throughout the history of that program that have worn number 5, then you're not the only number 5. So why should you get to elevate yourself over everybody else that's worn that number in the history of the program? I mean, that to me just makes no sense. I crack jokes sometimes. I'm going to just be straight up with you. I crack jokes sometimes when I see guys wear number 20. You see that number 20 up there behind me at the University of Washington? If they're scrubbed. And if they're scrubbed, You'll hear me say stuff all the time. Man, they better take number 20 off that scrub if they're gonna have some 20. Good football player. I don't want no scrubs wearing my number. I say that kind of stuff being funny. I've also said there was a guy who wore number 20, came in as a big time recruit, as a running back, one of the best in the country. And he started off at number 20 and he ended up having some back issues and then switching positions to wide receiver. Now, I love this kid, so I'm not going to say his name necessarily, but I used to always say, yeah, putting that number 20 on was a lot of pressure on your back, and your back gave out trying to wear that number 20. You had to change those positions. So I say stuff like that because I think it's funny in a sense, because I want to elevate the fact that I wore number 20, so that's a great number. But I don't feel like I own it to where nobody should ever wear this number 20. They should retire my number. Hell, I was first team All-American, I'm sure, like Jaden Daniels was. I was a Heisman Trophy candidate. I won a national award for being the best at my position in the country. But in no way, shape, or form, I was Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year. All of those things. I was the leading rusher in the history of the University of Washington. I won the West Coast Player of the Year. I can go on and on and on. But guess what? I don't feel like that number should never be used again because I wore it. And if it's about money, because he wants to market it and make it, his own and all of that, again, you're not the only person who ever wore number 5. So whatever you market and make off, do you need to split that with everybody else who wore number 5 in the history of the program? To me, it just doesn't make sense. And again, football is the ultimate team sport, right? This is the one sport that is really synonymous with teamwork and team play. Hell, if the left tackle wasn't blocking for his ass, Jaden Daniels could have ended up with broken arms and legs and not been that good. You know what I'm saying? If the other guys on the team wasn't competing and wasn't doing well, the team could have been terrible and not made any sense. And if the receivers were dropping the football and running bad routes, so it takes a lot of gall to me for a player to elevate himself to that status and that level, saying, because I wore number 5 and I'm great, no one else should ever wear it, or I should make all the money off of it, or somebody else got the sweet deal where their number's not being used anymore. I'm better than them. I'm cuter than them. I'm more special than them. You sound like a silly little kid to me. And if his mom is the driving force behind it, she get a boyfriend or something to occupy her time, so she ain't caught up in all of this business. It'd be as silly either. And that's, I'm just gonna keep it a buck with you. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I think that when you're saying that, it's bad for him because, like you said, as a football player, I'm sure he knows all the nuances of it being a team sport. But I'm sure his mom and his representatives, aren't looking at it like that. They're looking at it in a, like you said, monetary way, and they're looking at it from the standpoint of he was promised something that they went back on. So, that's how they're looking at it. I just hope it goes away for him. It's tough to be a meme forever, and it's not looking good every day. You see something different about Jaden Daniels in the number 5. But
hey, Chuck, before you go, let me ask one question. Chuck, what number did you wear at the University of Washington?
You're on mute.
I can't hear. Yeah,
Chuck,
you muted yourself.
Let me see if I can unmute him.
Oh, there we go. That's why you hear me quiet, because the number I wore, I ain't got no business talking about, because Warren.
But see, that's my point. That's where I want to quiet this. You have the number, Chuck, of the first Black quarterback to ever be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, a guy who opened doors, a guy who's famous beyond famous, who, if you counted the yards he threw in the Canadian Football League, he should be the number 1 yardage thrower of all time. Warren Moon would never, ever say, what's Charles Mincy doing wearing my number? We didn't retire Warren Moon's number. We didn't take his number out of circulation. And you gonna tell me Jaden Daniels should have his number taken out of circulation? Give me a break. Chuck Mincy wore number 1 and he represented and he wore it well. At least when they gave Warren's number to somebody, it was a good player. I just seen all kind of random cats wearing number 20. So and I ain't tripping. So Jaden, stop tripping.
Yeah.
I have the name was Javon McDaniels.
His name is just Daniels. Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I feel like, you hear me quiet because I wore a number that there was a Hall of Famer that wore it before I did. So I don't really feel like I have a right to speak on this in the sense, if anybody should have wanted their number retired, it should have been Warren Moon, at the University of Washington, and we didn't do that. So I was honored to play in that number. And like Don said, man, somebody else on the guy that wore it on the other side played a lot of scout team at that point. You know, he wore number 1. So I don't think, you know, at the UW, that was the issue as much that, you know, as far as the number, man, it's the guy in the number, I guess, that makes it. You know, I'm not, you know, really sure about how that goes. And then again, I never won a Heisman Trophy. So, you know, I think I know this, and I've heard Michael Irvin say this about the number 88, right? Now the number 88 is for that special guy. And I think that's a better way to go about looking at it. Like Michael Irvin is like, all right, we're going to put that guy who's the man in number 88, and you better wear it well. Like Greg was saying, man, it puts, you know, puts a lot of weight on your back if you got that number. If you come to Dallas and you trying to wear 88, you better be worthy of it. So you're going to look like a fool and a clown if you not stepping up to the plate. So that's probably how you should go about it, man. If you're going to come and wear 5 at LSU and not represent, then we need to take you and your NIL check and dump all y'all in somewhere in the swamp in LSU, wherever they from. But yeah, man, I that's how I think a better way of going about it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That makes a lot of sense.
I'll write a letter to UW and tell them to stop letting all these randoms wear my number.
Well, fellas, that was an awesome conversation. I got this week's segment is Don's Monsters, man. And this one's going to be a lot of fun because, you know, we get a chance to look at some big time hits and some of the meanest dudes ever to play the game. And with Don's Monsters, we're going to give you guys our 5 top edge rushers of all time. And, you know, this should be fun. I'm guessing a lot of it's going to be a lot of the same guys, but there has been a lot of guys in history. So, Greg, man, why don't you started off, give me your top 5 edge rushers of all time.
Well, I'm going to, you know, try to be true to just edge rushers, even if they're defensive ends or outside linebackers, because I think they're 2 different positions somewhat, but at the end of the day, they're guys who provide pressure from the outside. And I don't think this conversation could ever go anywhere without starting with a guy by the name of LT or Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor, I mean, changed the trajectory of defenses and offenses in the NFL. He made left tackle one of the premier positions, because if you could not block the guy who would protect the quarterback's blind side, then you were putting him in a dangerous position. And that's where LT was at. So to me, the number 1 guy, you got to start at the top with Lawrence Taylor, not just because he was a great pass rusher, but he was a fierce defensive player. So I'm going to start with LT. Number 2, of course, the minister of defense, Reggie White. He's more the defensive end, defensive lineman type, but he's the 2nd all-time sack leader, I believe, in the history of the NFL, with about 200 or somewhere close to that sacks. A guy who could play the run just as well, but he was a monster. I remember playing against Philadelphia my rookie year, I believe it was, and we went down there. Actually, I think it was my 2nd year. And we had to play against the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were, you know, the NFC beasts, as they called the NFC East back then. And they had him, and they had another guy by the name of Jerome Brown. And I remember running a play, and Jerome Brown was in the hole, and I tried some college spin move to try to spin out of it. And man, Reggie White hit me so hard in my back that it bruised my ribs. So imagine that. And the unfortunate part about that was, the other running back that day, the other tailback on the team, was inactive due to injury. So I had to play the rest of the game with a bruised rib. And every time I got tackled, I was whimpering like a little girl. So Reggie White has got to be, you know, the 2nd guy. Then there's a guy, wasn't super physical to me, and I had a little bit of success getting in his way, that Chuck played with all the time, by the name of Derek Thomas. I mean, Derek Thomas out of Alabama, where he played at in college.
Alabama.
The dude,
Alabama.
ridiculous. He was a freak athlete. I think he had like 7 sacks in one game. He was your pure speed rush guy. He had a lot of moves. I just thought, you know, he single-handedly kept us out of the playoffs one year. We played Chuck and those guys and came down to the end of the season. And I want to say it was it was 92. And they needed a win. We needed a win. And somehow our head coach forgot that Gaston Green is not a very good pass protector as a running back. And I go in on pass plays and help the tackle, or if it was slide protection, block that outside guy myself. And he had started to put me in, and he said, no, Gaston, you go in. And then he called a pass play, and I'm sitting there like, what? What are they doing? And Derek came off the edge, got the trifecta, the sack, the strip fumble, and the recovery for a touchdown.
Good for that.
Yeah, as part of them destroying us. So that's another guy. So that's what? How many is that so far? I got the Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White.
You got 3. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Bruce Smith. And you guys know I don't want to put him on this list because I do not like Bruce Smith. I'm going to just go on record and say that. And Bruce, if I see you in the street, I'm going to get some of my friends to come help me because I learned that you don't fight Bruce Smith. One more story I'll share is this. We were playing Buffalo, and Bruce Smith, I think the previous year, had an injury to his left knee. And that whole week, the coaches were saying, Greg, you have no release opportunities today, which means if all the guys you're supposed to pass block aren't coming, you release it to the flat or flare, whatever. He says, once you check all your guys, you go help the tackle block Bruce Smith. That's your assignment today. So I wasn't getting out in any routes. So after he would just ragdoll our tackle and throw him out the way, I mean, literally every play he would come off, throw the tackle out the way, and it was me and him. Now, if he just threw a 300 and some pound man out the way, what am I going to do? So I would cut him. I was cut blocking him, and he was real tentative and sensitive about his knee because he had that injury a little bit before. So I cut him, and it was legal. I wasn't chopping him when he was engaged with anybody. And I wasn't going at the knee. I was hitting him just above the thigh where you're supposed to cut people. And I cut him about 2 or 3 times. So about the third time he said, hey, number 20, and he didn't even know who I was, so I was insignificant. He said, you bet not cut me again. I just laughed. I was like, what you want me to do? You just ragged all the tackle. You getting cut today, man. Ginsu. And so I went back to the huddle. And then a few plays later, I ended up cutting him again. And I knew he was going to do something because I saw him trying to get up real fast. So I jumped my butt up and I ran to our huddle and got in the huddle. Smith got up and walked into our huddle. And I'm going to tell you, all these tough guys, I'm going to call some guys out like Keith Karts, and Lanier and Dave Waddell. All those guys parted like the Red Sea and let Bruce Smith walk right up. And Bruce put his hand in my face, and I had the low bar face mask, and his hand hit me right here. He said, look, number 20. And I was like, man, get your hand out. And I could not move his arm. I was trying to just come out, and he had it cocked like this right in my forehead. And I'm looking, my teammates was all off to the side. He said, I'm going to kick your bleep. And after the game, if I have to come out to the bus to get you. And the referees came and drug him out our huddle and left. So I'm sitting there looking at these guys like, wow, nobody had my back. And now you guys know I'm the first person to not worry. I'll fight anybody at any place in time. And that's just my mentality. Not smart, because about 4 or 5 plays later, maybe it was a quarter later, I don't remember exact time. It's all blurred now, this many years later. We had a play where I got the handoff, but somebody had jumped off sides, a false start. So the referees, tweet, blew the whistle. Bruce did not stop. Hit me around my neck, flipped me and slammed me on the ground after the whistle. I jumped up, ran at him. Before I could get within 5 yards of him, all you saw was bang, bang, bang. He gave me a 3-piece, knocked me back down on the ground. Helmet came up. I got up, I stumbled, I looked at him. I said, shoot, and walked on back to the huddle. Take this 15-yard penalty. And after the game, when I went and got on the bus, since I knew nobody had my back, I was in the back of the bus, peeking out the window like, oh, yeah. So Bruce Smith worked my tail on national television in a live football game. So I can't ever say I ain't ever been beat up, because everybody saw me get beat up by Bruce Smith. So that's number 4. For number 5, I'm going to throw a wild one out there. I just like this guy's style. I liked his flash. I liked his panache and glamour. But if you go back to the old New York Jets and a guy by the name of Mark Gastineau, who put all the just some pizzazz and everything in playing that position. And he was, frankly, along with Lawrence Taylor, one of the first guys that made that outside linebacker position so valuable with all, the sack connection that he had with Joe Klecko. So those would be, I think I gave you 5, right? I gave you I gave you Bruce Smith. I gave you my guy, the minute defense.
Lawrence Taylor.
Taylor. I gave you Derek Thomas, and I gave you Mike Gastineau.
Mark Gastineau. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chuck, yeah.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Chuck, you ready?
Yeah. I'm debating my thing because I'm gonna go with story wise. But okay, so right off the bat, let's get it out the way. Everybody knows that LT is gonna be on everybody's list. So that right there is Lawrence Taylor is on everybody's list. I'm gonna go with, for obviously, you know, I played with this guy. I've seen him, you know, up close. I know the type of beast he was. I've been there many a times, just backpedaling, and then you hear the crowd roar, and this dude is standing over the quarterback. Or often, you know, just like, you know, I heard him say, Greg say, getting the trifecta, the strip sack, man. Like Derek Thomas made money off of that, you know, and so Derek Thomas is in my top 5, and this in no particular order because I don't think it's kind of hard.
Yes,
and I'm gonna go with a slash. All right, because I'm stuck on these two people right here. So I'm gonna put both of them in as getting into my top 5 as number 5th, and I'm gonna go with your Bruce Smith and Julius Peppers. I couldn't decide which one to
Julius
leave out.
Yeah.
You know, and so then I got a surprise for y'all. Here's a surprise. I'm just going, hey, we shouldn't do this all time. Put somebody like this on it all time. But I'm gonna go with it right now. Miles Garrett right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and skip all it. Let's get to it right now. Miles Garrett. Yeah, you typically wouldn't put that with somebody who's still playing, but hey, it is what it is, man. And last but not least, I saved this person for last because I got a story. Greg had an unfortunate situation, and it turned out a little worse than mine, but I had to block Reggie White one day. All right. I had to essentially pass block on Reggie White. So we were playing Green Bay. We're playing Green Bay
or something.
We're playing Green Bay. Can I finish my story, Troy?
Yeah. You said the pass block. So I was just trying to get a quick understanding.
We playing Green Bay one day. And we getting down to, I'm in Tampa. And at this point in time, I know a lot of times we're like, hey, man, offense, they were like, we got to be aggressive. We playing this tight game. We're going to go for it. For whatever reason, they decided we had the ball like on the 49 and they decided to punt instead of going for it. So they kept, the defense out there. So I'm on the punt team on the wing, and I look up, and this Reggie White standing in front of me, right? And I know my assignment is to block Reggie White. And the safety is in the background like, Reg, get him, Reg. Look at him, Reg, he's scared. Get him, Reg, he's scared. I was thinking, hey, man, shut your ass up, man. I was like, what are you doing right now? Let's get this dude hyped up. And I was thinking, man, what's about to happen? All I could think about, I'm about to get hump move. And, you do your 2 kick steps and you try to make contact. And I promise you, it was like I literally hit a wall. This dude took a couple of steps and I engaged with him. And it was like he excused me out the way. Like he kindly just moved me to the side. It didn't even seem like it was a lot of effort. I think it was maybe it was a long drive and he may have been tired, or he just had mercy on me or something, but he just kind of moved me to the side out the way. And by that time, the punt, the way in the NFL, the snap and everything is so quick that boom, it was off before he even had a chance to get back there. But
you just had to get in his way a little bit.
I just really had to get in his way, man. But man, I was concerned, say nonetheless. Reggie White.
Chuck,
is my 5th.
I thought you were gonna say it was a fake punt and that you had to actually block him pass protection wise, and he ended up sacking the punter / whoever was trying to throw the fake punt. So good thing it was really a punt.
I say that a lot, man. That I understand my blessings, man, because I didn't have to. Bo Jackson was out of the league when I got into the league. You know, situations like this where Reggie, Christian Okoye was in practice. I remember getting drafted thinking, man, I'm going to have to hit Christian Okoye every day at practice. And, you know, practice didn't go like that in the league. You paying people, so you ain't banging up against them all day. So I'm thankful, man, that, hey, man, things just worked out. But I was concerned, say nothing to league. Man, you don't want to get a punt blocked on you. But at that point, I'm going to think like, man, they better understand, like, you know, so that's kind of the thing, man. I just had to get in his way. I was brave. I did it. So, hey, you know, kudos to me in that sense. But, you know, I got escorted out the way. It was like he was just security, and I was like a little 21-year-old. I was like a 19-year-old with no ID, and he just like, move away.
I tell you what, I don't begrudge you for putting Myles Garrett on your list, the here and the now. I think that certainly is an obvious one. I wanted to throw the whole Mark Gastineau in there out of, sort of some nostalgia, and because I love the long hair and how he used to approach the game and really hype himself up. But real talk,
I love
Myles Garrett is better than Mark Gastineau.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was done, man. I was in LA at the time when it happened, and I don't know exactly what happened. Those two, man. I remember when Jaime Fields passed. I was with the Raiders, and I think it was Lincoln Kennedy who had told me when Jaime passed. And then I remember when Derek passed, and it was kind of the same thing, man. You know, Derek was a big, big personality. For whatever reason, man, he kind of took to me, but in the way where he was kind of just picking at me all the time. You know, he was like, look, rookie, you seem like you're going to make this team, all right? So, look, I don't want no mess out of you. He didn't say mess, but I need you to bring breakfast and donuts and, hey, do your job as a rookie, you know? But the dude was mad cool, man. I remember one time I was there in Kansas City, and my girlfriend came up, and, man, my car had a flat. It had a flat, and we was trying to get to the airport. And I had like, Jeep Cherokee or whatever. And at the time, man, he had this huge Benz. Back then it seemed like it was about as long as a boat. That's what it seemed like to me. This huge Mercedes. And we was at the hotel, the Adams Mark, that all the players used to stay at, right basically across the street from the facility. And he was downstairs, and, I was sitting out there like, dang, man. He was like, hey, man, take my car, man. I got you, And I was like, for real, you sure? He was like, yeah. So he gave me the keys to his car to, take my girl to the airport and, got my tire fixed and everything while I was gone, man. So that was crazy. Derek was a big golfer. Like, these dudes will tell you training camp back then, man, was training camp. Like, we had weeks and weeks of double days. And so we would be out there, you'd be out there losing weight. They'd have to weigh you in and out of practice and in practice. And I remember people cramping up and passing out, so training camp was intense. But Derek would practice that first practice. That dude would go play golf. That dude would go play golf and then come back and practice the second practice like it was nothing, Tremendous athlete, really good dude, man. It's just unfortunate, what happened. It was a car accident, and I forget the exact things of what happened, man. But he was hurt, man, and he from the accident he was paralyzed for a while. So that was the first word, was that Derek was paralyzed, basically like from the neck down. And just being somebody who was that type of athlete and that type of person, I find it almost more, in a sense, and I don't know where this stands, how people feel about it, but I just found comfort that, man, he went on to be with the Lord. I felt like that was the better scenario, and I'm not saying that flippantly. It just, knowing a guy like that, knowing him, I felt like it was, probably what was destined to happen in that situation. Just a really, tragic circumstance, man. But, while he lived a great life, and wasn't a bad dude, was, really giving and open. So, man, I was just thankful to be a teammate and to play alongside of him. And obviously he's going to make, most people's top 5 when it comes to pass rushers, man. You think of LT and then you think of Derek Thomas, and so that's kind of where it's at. So those were pretty much my 5. I told you I put the youngin in there, but I had to, man. That dude is
he's a beast, man.
So,
No question.
yeah.
Without
No question. He's a beast. Don, man, you're up, man. It's Don's Monsters. Let's see what you got for us, Don.
Well, man, when you go last, you guys steal my thunder a little bit, but I got a couple of surprises or different players. I'm gonna always start off with The Blind Side. The reason why The Blind Side was a movie was because there was a book out there specifically for Mr. Lawrence Taylor. They made a book out of the dude called The Blind Side because they had to create a whole new position, to block this dude. He changed the game, so he changed the game. And there was never someone in the history that raised as much fear that was so unblockable off that edge, and he would have been a great player in the old days and in the current day. He was a beast. He was mean. He was tough, and he was super athletic. And he was somebody I always looked up to as a former pass rusher myself. Number 2, I gotta roll with you guys with Derek Thomas. And the reason why, and I'm sticking mainly with edge rushers too, because Bruce Smith and Reggie White, they did play some defensive end too, but they kind of did both. I'm dealing my 5 is gonna be strictly pure edge rushers. And the next guy, one of the things I look for in pass rushers when I look for how good they are today, I look for the get off. If you that first step, that in order to be a pure great pass rusher, you got to have that get off. You got to be able to get off the ball quicker, than anybody else off the ball. I watch it and see who gets off the ball the quickest. And I ain't never seen nobody like Derek Thomas get off that. My first step, man, was crazy. Was ridiculous. He was so quick off the ball, man. Before the offensive tackle will move, he's already past him. I mean, it's like crazy. He was that fast off the ball, man. And I like that his first 2 steps was incredible. So one game he was getting off the ball so fast, I think he had 7 sacks in one game. I don't think nobody in the history done that. And against Seattle, he had 7 sacks in one game. He was just killing that offensive tackle.
Man.
And then my next guy is a guy that, he came after me, but, I wish he was a guy that I think if I had a long NFL career, I would have had a career like this dude right here, because we were kind of similar in size and the way
I know you'll say
Dwight Freeney. That's been
Dwight Freeney, yeah.
He must have got it from me, man. But he perfected it. He's about 6'1", 6 foot tall, and he had that get off too, that quick. But he had that spin move, man. That he would get the offensive. He would get off upfield so fast and get that offensive tackle running on hills, and then all of a sudden he'd spin inside and get the sack, man. He had that move down to the pack, man. He was an incredible player. Stayed in the backfield. He was a guy that hey, man, I pay to go see any day. Hall of Famer, one of the greatest pass rushers of all time. And next, I got to go with Chuck, man. I had him on my list, man. His name is Myles Garrett, man. He's still playing today, but anytime you break the all-time sack record, you got to put him on that list. And he's probably going to go down as the greatest. If he stays healthy and he keeps going, like he is, he might be the greatest pure. I mean, he's one of those guys that he can do everything like a Dwight Freeney can do, except he's 6'7". I mean, that's, imagine a guy that size with the speed, like I had or like a Dwight Freeney had, and the strength to go with it. He has no weaknesses in his game. He has hand movement, the hand placements. He has the get off. He has the power. He's unblockable. I mean, he is a force to be reckoned with, man. And I love to watch him play today because he got that motor. And that's another thing as a pass rusher. Do we have that motor? That motor is the ability to get off time and time again through the whole game. Some people can do it for a little while, but can you go for the whole game getting off the ball at 100 miles per hour? We used to call it the racetrack to the quarterback, and that dude gets there every freaking play almost. But the last guy is my idol. You know, if I didn't name this guy, all my homeboys would probably go off on me.
I know you're gonna say.
You know, but I have to go with the meanest dude in NFL history, by the name of Charles Haley.
Most
You know,
Haley.
the legendary Charles. I'll never forget, man. I mean, growing up, man, that dude used to terrorize all of us. As we know, he was, we were like, I was like in grade school when he was in high school. When he used to get on the bus, man. I mean, and the thing about it, the Charles, he won't, because we were younger. He wouldn't try to physically beat us, but he would beat us. Just we were scared of him because he was so darn funny. He would crack jokes on us. I'll never forget it. He was cool. He was always cool with me, thank God. But my best friend, man, he got the brunt of Charles Haley, man. I remember I'll never forget, man, because my buddy's mom used to date a dude, and he was a little handicapped, right? He was a little, and Charles would get on the bus and say, "Hey, Barry, your mama go out with a crooked-legged man," and the whole bus was like, go crazy, and it was like, but the thing is, man, Charles was a bully of bullies, man. He used to, but the thing about it, he would go and he would find the biggest dude and the baddest dude, and he would go after him, like he would pick on him like he didn't care who you were, but he wound up being a great mentor of mine. When I got into the NFL, he invited me to his home and gave me a lot of pointers. He had Ronnie Lott look out for me when he was at the Jets, but it's funny, man, because when we was at UW, we had Dennis Brown who went to San Francisco. When he came back to Seattle, he said, "Hey Don, man, what's wrong with your boy Charles Haley? He's crazy, man." I was like, "Man, that's the way he is. He ain't crazy. That's the way he is, man. He's always been that way. He's been that way ever since we were kids. It ain't nothing changed. He didn't change. People act like he changed when he went to the NFL. No, he been that way ever since he was ever since he was school, man. But he's always been the guy I would look up to. Heck, man, me and my dad used to listen to his games when he was at James Madison on weekends. We were on the radio. We would just listen to him on the radio, and I always see how he'd always be dominating when he was at James Madison University, and it was great. We were all proud of him because of the guy that played at that level, coming from a town of about 1,000 people. I mean, we had only 300 something people at our high school, and just think about a guy that from that small tobacco town to be as great as he was. That's something we were all, as for me coming up, that I was able to see that it could be done, even coming from a small town. You can make it to the NFL, and that's all because of Charles Haley. So shout out to Charles Haley.
Hey, Don, we know hey, I was in the middle of something there. Hey, Don, we all know that the real reason that Charles Haley never tried to bully you is because your big brother, Gary Jones, would have kicked his butt if he'd have messed with you. That's why. Make sure I tell Gary, I said that. He had your back. He wasn't going to let Charles mess with you.
Yeah,
that is
funny, man.
I got a couple names that you guys didn't mention, and I want you guys' feedback on them and kind of tell me what you think. Michael Strahan, you got Michael Strahan.
Oh, yeah.
You got who was a beast. You got Ed Jones used to play for the Cowboys back in the day.
Too Tall Jones. Hey, let's do right.
Ed Too Tall Jones, my bad. Ed Deacon Jones. Yeah. Ed Deacon Jones,
yeah, they say he probably got the all-time sack record. They just didn't keep track of him back then.
Right.
Yeah.
They say he wasn't official. They say he was a beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think you're keeping true to the rush. The guys who stand up, I guess, is kind of a differentiator between Bruce Smith and a Reggie White, as opposed to the guys that Don talked about. Although Dwight Freeney was kind of a 3-point stance kind of guy for the most part, even though he was smaller. But I think I was going to mention Strahan in this sense. Myles Garrett, when he broke the record, I believe Michael Strahan still had the record at the time that he broke. And Michael Strahan, from a rush standpoint, just a pure defensive end, you got to give him, a lot of that, because the guy had a fantastic career. And, and he was also a guy, I remember him talking about, he didn't want to get the record, by somebody letting him get a sack or something. I can't remember the exact circumstance, but he wanted to earn every single sack he got. And I think that, he had a fantastic career and he's doing a lot of great stuff in the media since then, but you can't have this without mentioning him. I also think there's a guy, the guy who just, Von Miller. I think Von Miller is another guy who had as a pass rusher.
Super Bowl MVP. Yeah.
MVP from the defensive end. I mean, that's saying a lot. A guy who as a pass rusher. And I think he just signed with somebody again. So he's still playing in the NFL. People see his value as a player, even this late stage in his life. So I think that's another guy, Troy and Don, who we could throw in there as one of the all-time pass rushing guys out from the outside.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And another thing too, I need to point out too that it did come out that he had bipolar disorder, and that really made a lot of sense why he had the issues. Even when we were younger, he had some of those. He had some of those same characteristics, and it came out that he was bipolar. So I wanted to throw that in there too.
That's why he was a great pass rusher.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, all the people he intimidated. I mean, this dude intimidated grown men. NFL dudes was scared of. I mean, so that he did it at every. He's the only person to intimidate people at every level.
Yeah, you guys mentioned the story a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Emmitt Smith and the great rushers, where he was upset that they hadn't signed Emmitt Smith at the beginning of the 1993 season, I guess that would have been, and he got mad and threw a football helmet. And was it the head coach or was it the owner,
Jerry Jones? He threw a helmet at Jerry Jones and just missed him by that much.
Just missed it and put a hole in the wall. And that was his way of saying, go out there and get your sign.
The dude didn't have one thing for sure, he didn't have no respect of persons. He didn't care who you were.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
Charles Haley.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, fellas, man, it's been great. It's been fun. Another episode of Ballheader Logic. Please like and subscribe. Please make sure that you tell us what you think. Please make sure you comment. Please make sure that you help us improve our product. We'll be bringing you this weekly conversations, and hopefully they are giving you guys some entertainment. For Don, for Chuck, for Greg, and for myself, guys have a great week. Peace.
Go Dogs.
All right, man. We'll holler at you. Cool.